Welcome, everybody. I'm Neil Cavuto. And do you think Scott Walker would take those jabs lying down? Do not count on it, because Scott Walker is here and only here responding to a candidate who seems to be taking the nation by storm. And that is what we're looking at on Your World on a day that everything seems to intertwine around one Donald Trump, including what happened in China today. Bear with me. Stocks there plunging 8.5% on worries that the government simply cannot prop up that market. The worries were serious enough to register on our own Dow, which by the end of the day was down 126 points. Some say that Donald Trump foresaw this issue as well, that we are too beholden to China and that China lies, and that furthermore, we kowtow to the Chinese. It is a theme Donald Trump has brought up on this show again and again and again over the years. Have a look.
If we don't get smart quickly, China will destroy our country.
I don't want from China, but you almost have to buy from China. It's ridiculous.
China is draining our wealth.
The Chinese do not respect us. China is absolutely taking advantage of this country. There's never been a country that's abused us like China abuses us.
China won't be ripping us. Japan won't be ripping us. Mexico will not be ripping off this country like they're doing right now.
Right now, China's taking all of our jobs. They're laughing at us. They think we're so stupid. China is taking total advantage of the United States.
Now, the reason why we strung a lot of those comments together is to separate the messenger from the message. On this show and on my Fox Business show, Coast to Coast, which, by the way, if you don't get, you should demand, but I digress. Everyone has been focusing on Donald Trump and what he is saying, and is he over the top, and is he arrogant, and is he a bit too much, and losing sight of the message that is resonating with the American people, first on illegal immigration, but more to the point and consistently to the point, over the better part of a decade I've been interviewing him now, on this issue of China and whether we kowtow to the Chinese too much. The proof might be in comments that the Chinese government itself has made that it is stepping back from trying to prop up these markets. And every time it says it is going to do that, there is hell to pay, like a big fall off in the Chinese stock market today. So is there something to what Trump has been arguing for a long time, that China is a paper tiger, that it lies, that it makes up its numbers, that everything is lifted by a government that's playing a game of, well, glorified kabuki theater with everybody, including its own investors. Scott Martin says, China is a big problem. The National Review's Eliana Johnson says Trump's tough talk on China is indeed resonating. So, Scott, I'm listening to him and what he's saying. Regardless of what you think about him, that concern that China is running circles around us when, in fact, they get more out of their relationship with us than we will ever get out of our relationship with them, does hit a chord. What do you think?
It does. I mean, what we're getting out of them is money that they're lending to us, that they're holding over our heads. They're playing tough with our currency, Neil. And now it looks like some of the chickens, at least in China, are coming home to roost. Their stock market is all over the map. You have up 7%, down 10, up 8, down 5. I mean, any given day, it's kind of like the United States in 2007 or 2008. So their economy is in a little bit of trouble. Their number one trading partner is Europe, by the way, who's a bigger disaster than Paris Hilton's latest music album. So if you've got money over there, if you're relying on your short-term trades in China, I'd be careful and start lightening up on those positions.
Elena, one thing that came through with Trump, and this is why this particular point of view and the illegal immigration thing resonate with a lot of folks for now. I stress for now. Because they're angry. They're angry at a China they think is taking advantage of us. And Donald Trump has said, maybe a bit too simplistically, according to critics on this show, that, China, yes, owns a lot of our debt, but we're the reason they're in the position to own a lot of our debt. And we should recognize that. We buy a lot of their stuff. We could just as easily stop buying a lot of their stuff, and China would quickly discover we have the upper hand. That's the message he sends. Do you agree with that?
Well, Trump's aggressive rhetoric on China has really tapped into the anger of the American people who see China as an enemy and who actually think China's rise has come at the expense of the American worker. I think that's particularly true in the wake of this enormous hack of the Office and Personnel Management's databases, which, by the way, the Obama administration has said boo about, and most of the Republican presidential candidates have said boo about, but which in fact is an act of cyber war. So I think Trump speaking up and standing up to China is what Americans Americans really want to see the administration do right now?
You know, I think what happens, Scott, is sometimes when things look like intractable problems, we start wondering why they're intractable. Are there simpler solutions? And, you know, a lot of a sophisticated crowd would tell you, no, there are no simple solutions. But maybe we have made the China relationship more complicated than it's worth. Maybe we have been on defense for too long through Republican and Democratic administrations. And along comes a very loudmouth billionaire to say, stop playing that game. Just stop.
Yeah, you know, it's been going on for decades. I mean, I remember back when Paul O'Neill, Treasury Secretary, would go over on a plane and say, hey, we're going to get really tough on China with regards to the currency manipulation. And guess what happened? Nothing. So the simple answer is Donald Trump, who is a shrewd businessman, maybe somewhat of a bully in his own right in the business world, is calling out the bully that is China geopolitically and saying, enough's enough. And that's a solution that I think America can embrace.
You know, Eliana, it is interesting whether you look at the comments that Trump has made about Mexicans that many thought were racist. His popularity went up afterwards. When he went after John McCain and whether he's a genuine hero, his popularity went up afterwards. On this whole China dust-up and whether his solutions were too simplistic, his popularity has gone up afterwards, to the point now he is the most popular of all the Republican presidential candidates for now. What do you make of that, and what, in a bigger sense, is behind Trump's success?
Well, I think many Americans find it refreshing to see somebody who just doesn't care about speaking diplomatically and says what he thinks. And when it comes to China, to hear Donald Trump say, you know, we should take the Chinese to McDonald's for a state dinner rather than wining and dining them at the White House actually reflects the way Americans feel about a country they perceive to be their enemy and which has just, in effect, for all intents and purposes, waged war on the U.S. And I think the question you raised, Neil, tacitly is this the statesmanship American will want over the long term? And that's a question that remains to be seen.
Well, it would be a different kind of presidency, I guess. Guys, thank you both very, very much. Now,